12 seconds over. I try so hard to time it right. Good morning, Shane. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Craig. Good, thanks. How are you doing?
Very good.
Good.
So I was thinking this morning, our audience usually builds, so we'll BS for a minute or two while the group comes in. But kind of a boring topic, WDOs, right?
Well, depends on your perspective. If they're not there, then yeah, it's pretty boring. But if they are there, it's a good thing you're doing it.
Well, I sent a note to the team this morning that said a great realtor understands every facet of the transaction.
Hmm.
And many, many years ago, I started selling real estate. And, everything went to the title company. That was my training back then. Oh, shit, I sold a house. Now what do? Let's give the title company. But that's not good enough, right? The title company will take care of you. But to be a great realtor, you really need to know what's going on. And, we're in Florida, so we know there's only two types of houses. You've heard this. Those that have
Correct.
termites and those that will have termites, right?
Absolutely.
But that doesn't
Yeah.
happen in the other states. And right now we got a lot of people moving in from other states. And if they hear they got termites, they freak out, right? And it's really not a
Yep.
big deal. So we'll let you dive in now. I just want to kill a little more time. We'll probably get to 70 or 80 people, but it takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So give us a little background on yourself. You're the
Sure.
FBI.
Yeah. Well, I'm Shane. I'm with Florida Building Inspection Group. I've been with them coming up on 9 years now.
Wow.
And yeah, I know time
That's a
flies
long time
crazy.
for a home inspection company.
Yep. Yep, it is. I was actually the first inspector Tom hired. He was doing it, by himself for quite a while, and decided, he could probably make it a company, which obviously he did. And so he hired Dusty. I'm sure most of you know Dusty, and she was in charge of marketing for Tom. And then she told him, "Man, you better get somebody else because I'm about to blow it up." And she did indeed. And so he and I started out, and he brought me on to help, and I was actually in the pest control industry. My family has actually been in the pest control industry since before I was born, and that's been quite a long time now. I won't say exactly how long, but it's been a long time. So I guess, I grew up around it. My family was in it, so I was always around, the office and, seeing the business. Never really aspired to be in the business, but it just, circumstance would happen that I did end up being in the pest control industry. I worked for my family's company for many years, and then decided I wanted to have my own pest control business. So I went and got certified and started my own pest control business, not to compete with my family. It was actually in a different area than they serviced, so there was no, conflict. But actually owned my own business for close to 20 years. And just, different circumstances came about that, I wanted to try to maybe do something else, with my life. So I sold my business and to one of the larger national companies, actually, and did a few other things for a while. Didn't work out quite as well as I had hoped. So I thought, you know what, maybe I should do something I know how to do. So went back into the pest control business. I was the branch manager for the Tampa branch of a very large pest control company, and didn't really enjoy the big corporate, setting. And um, all that time, even, when I had my own business and when I was working for the bigger company, I had been in a business networking group with Tom Fry, the owner of FBI Group. And so he would always call me to do the WDO inspections for him because requires a separate license with the state. And so, as we kept, doing business together, I told him I wasn't happy where I was. He said he needed another inspector to help him. And so I said, hey, I know you always call me to do the WDOs. I'll keep my termite license and get my home inspector's license. And then that way we can do all, the inspections in one shot.
Which is one of
And
the benefits of FBI Inspection Group, is that you guys
well,
could.
we like to think so. Yeah, we're like a one-stop shop. You don't have to call, the home inspector, the WDO inspector, the radon inspector, the mold inspector. We do all that for you. So yeah. So I, got my home inspector's license, went over with Tom, like I said, and we're coming up on 9 years now, and it's been fantastic. Been
Super.
very, very good for me and I hope for them as well.
Well, download us what you know about the wood destroying organism business. Because we always call it
Oh,
termite inspections, but it really isn't termites. It's wood destroying organisms. So let's talk about that.
correct. Right. Yeah. Most people, just call it a termite inspection, but WDO stands for wood destroying organisms. There are other um, insects and organisms that destroy wood in a home besides termites that we look for. There are some wood boring beetles, namely old house borers and powder post beetles that can destroy seasoned wood in a home. Um, and there are actually other wood boring beetles, but those are not included in the WDO inspection or report because they don't reinfest seasoned wood. They just, if they do happen to be in the wood, they lay, their eggs, which hatch into larvae. The larvae pupate and then come out as a beetle, but then they leave the wood, they don't come back. So they don't do further damage. Old house borers and powder post beetles will reinfest the wood that they, just came out of. So it accelerates the damage. So that's why the state is concerned with those two types.
When you
And
say
then there's
seasoned
also
wood,
wood decay. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
what does seasoned wood mean?
It's just like, processed wood that they use for lumber.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Is
not
pressure
just,
treated wood termite proof or not?
I wouldn't say termite proof. It's a little more termite resistant, especially initially. But as time goes by, those chemicals will degrade and kind of dry up a little bit. So all wood is susceptible at some point. Pressure treated does give you some protection for some time, but eventually that will become susceptible as well.
Okay.
And then the other thing we look for is wood decaying fungi, which is just some water damage or wood rot, a lot of people call it. And that progresses to an actual fungus that will eat the fibers of the wood, and it absorbs all the moisture, and the wood becomes compromised. So those are the things that we look for. Um, Wood decaying fungi, wood boring beetles, namely old house borers and powder post beetles. And then the two, common types of termites, drywood and subterranean.
Well, I'm going to read the chats as they come across. An
Sure.
agent said they recently did a wood destroying organism inspection with you guys, and there was wood destroying fungi. And
Mhm.
she was told that you guys won't make any changes. You won't correct the report. You're going to send, you want them to the third party inspector to say it's clean now.
That's true, and I sincerely apologize for that. In
That
that
makes sense. I mean, there's
stems
liability.
well, and that's what I was going to say. It's because of our liability policy. Our insurance company, for whatever reason, I don't really know why, but they will not allow us to do standalone WDO inspections. It has to be done along with our home inspection. So even though we were already there and we're just kind of coming back, I get it, but it's technically a separate inspection and separate report. So our insurance company doesn't cover us for that. So we can't do it for liability reasons. Um, so again, my apologies, but it's just kind of one of those things that's out of our control.
Well, part two, she says there's an issue having another inspection company come out now. Maybe they will find other issues. Well, that's a problem, Amy, because if there are other issues, we want them to be found. I mean, we do. Well, if we represent the buyer anyway, the seller, we're laying the grass. But if it's
Yeah,
for the buyer, but chances are they're not going to find any new issues. But let's talk about that for a second, Shane, because
sure.
especially termites, they swarm and they move. So you
Correct.
can have a clean termite inspection a week before closing, and 2 months after closing, you've got termites. And that really pisses people off. But
Agreed.
it's a fact of life. So talk about that for a minute.
Sure. Yeah. Well, there's actually some very specific verbiage on the WDO report that states that this is an inspection and a report on what is visible and accessible at the time of inspection.
Mhm.
It's a fairly long paragraph. I won't go into specific you know word for word, but
Just see why
it's basically saying we're here today. What we can get to and what we can see is reported on, and that's it. And to your point, termites can live for years without being detected. It seems oversimplified, but you don't really know you have them until you know. You could not see them for 2 or 3 years, and then all of a sudden one day they just swarm. And hopefully for our benefit and for your buyer's benefit, that swarm happens before we get there, or there's some visible damage done, or um, there's some other evidence that we can note. But we really stress on that report, if we don't see anything, that hey, please read this section carefully, because we want you to understand, as good of inspectors as we may be, we're only seeing what we're seeing today. A month from now, 3 months from now, whatever, there may be some evidence that presents itself that we just can't predict. um
what are some of
so
the telltale signs that there's a problem? I mean, I always heard like termite wings laying on the windowsills and stuff like that.
sure, yeah, absolutely, yeah, that's one indication. Those are from the swarmers. And that's another problem too, is because they only swarm at certain times of year. As a rule of thumb, subterranean termites tend to swarm in the spring, and drywood termites swarm in the summer. Now, there's always, exceptions depending on the weather, because, like, sometimes we have a 90-degree day in January, and termites don't have a calendar. They just know it's hot outside. So, okay, it must be July. Let's swarm out. So I've seen that in the past. It's not common, but typically, like I said, it's spring and summer. So if we're doing an inspection in, say, October, there's more than likely not going to be, any evidence of a swarm, unless it happened, say it was a vacant home and nobody came and cleaned it up. But yes, wings are an indication. Obviously, the dead, swarmers you can see lying around in the windowsills, on the floor, wherever. Spider webs is a good place that we try to look, because they get caught in those webs. Um, there are droppings that we see, it's called frass. It's little coffee ground looking, sand grains almost.
Sawdust.
We can Sawdust, yep. So yeah, we look for those types of things. There's also um, some things on the wood that looks like almost like blistering, where you can see that there may be some damage inside the wood. And that's another problem as well. Termites tend to hollow out wood. They don't eat the outer edge a lot of times. So sometimes the outside of a piece of wood or a board could look perfectly fine, and the inside is completely eaten away. So unless we just happen to stumble on it and tap on it, to detect that damage, sometimes it's very difficult to come across, especially in occupied homes where there's a lot of furniture. If it's vacant, we can tap on the baseboards, window frames, door frames, trim, that sort of thing. But if it's full of furniture, there's a lot of, areas that we can't get to, obviously. Pardon me.
So you're not going to move a couch away from the wall and tap on the baseboards.
We try our best to look around, but yeah, no, we can't, move people's stuff, unfortunately, because, for liability reasons, we don't want to damage their stuff. Um, you know, damage a floor, things like that. So,
So
but
I'm not
we
challenging.
try.
I'm just clarifying for everybody.
Right. Yeah. No, no, we're not moving furniture, for any inspection, home inspection, termite inspection. It's just not part of our, standards of practice, or it is for any home inspection company.
So let's say you had a dishonest seller and they suspect they have termites and they vacuum the house before you guys come. Are there still other ways you can detect that there's a problem?
Well, again, if we just happen to stumble upon, some damaged areas, and a lot of it depends on the age of the home, the type of construction, the area that it's located in. Those are, if we go to, 100-year-old crawl space wooden, built house in Ybor City, we're going to be much higher alert than we would for, a brand new construction home, in, wherever, it may be. Just because it takes some time, for termites to build up a colony large enough to where you can even see evidence. So that plays a little bit of a part into it. But to your point, yeah, it makes it a little more difficult. But we try to do our due diligence and inspect as best we can. Do some tapping or sounding of the wood, as they call it, and you know, but again, as with any other inspection, it's not going to be 100% perfect 100% all of the time. But our guys are pretty good. They're very highly trained, and we've you know as anything else, we've missed one or two here and there, but it's very rare actually.
So how do termites get into, let's say like D.R. Horton, for example, they have a
Mhm.
two-story house, concrete block on both floors. And so the first place of entry for wood would be the trusses. I'm making this up, so if I'm wrong, correct me.
No, that's fine. Yeah, no, that is true. Well, again, there's two types of termites. There's drywood termites, and then there's
Subterranean.
subterranean termites.
Mm-hmm.
Subterranean termites are called subterranean termites because they live underground. They live a subterranean life. So they forage through the soil and can detect wood as they, are going by foraging, and they can go through cracks in the slab where the bottom course of block sits on top of the slab. There's usually a little crack that goes there. You have plumbing penetrations, utility penetrations. All of that separates from the concrete over time, and they only need a very, very small, space or crack
Yes.
to get through. So they'll forage up around the concrete through the holes in the concrete block, and they'll start, finding wood at that point. You've got your bottom sill plate for your drywall. You've got, baseboards, door frames, door trim. The interior walls are all wood frame. So if there happens to be a crack in the slab somewhere in the interior part of the home, they can come up through there. Um, so subterranean termites generally start from the ground and work their way up. Drywood termites don't live underground. They don't need to have the ground contact to get their moisture. They get the moisture out of the air and from the wood they eat. So those typically will swarm and go into little cracks around the soffits, vents, roof vents, that sort of thing, and they'll go up into the attic and start their colonies there. Or if it happens to be a crawl space home, they can go up, and get in through that area as well. But typically, again, a subterranean termites start from the ground and go up. Usually, as a rule of thumb, drywood termites start from the roof and work their way downward. So yeah, there's many ways that termites can get in. And I tell you, Craig, in my many years of home or pest control uh, business, I got that, hey, I have a concrete block house. I can't have termites.
Right.
Well, 95 to 99% of the homes we treated for termites were concrete block.
Right.
Just there's a lot more wood inside than people realize, with trusses, framing, that sort of thing. So, yep, no one's exempt unless it's all concrete and metal. You're going to get them at some point. Hopefully it's very long, after you move in. Could be 20, 30 years, or it could be a couple weeks. You just never know. It's luck of the draw.
Question came in. Do you have the higher chance of termites if you have a lot of trees on your property?
You do actually.
I've seen
That
like
kind
a
of,
dead oak tree branches on a tree and it falls on the ground. And it's full of termites.
yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's actually back to my point I made earlier. We consider not only the age and the construction of the home, but the area. Um, and again, these are all, kind of rule of thumb. There's always exceptions, but typically you'll have more chance of having termites if it's in a lower, um, wetter, heavily treed area than if you're on a high, dry, sandy area with, not many trees.
The blind ones we had found a way through the chimney and hid in a space there. We thought we'd be okay because our house is cedar. Do termites not eat cedar?
Uh, well, it's kind of like the pressure treated wood. They don't initially, but even cedar loses, some of its chemical composition over time. So once it dries out, then it's fair game.
Subject to.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, one of the things I want to get to before we end is, do you have a termite inspection report you can show us?
Yes, I do actually. If you'll just maybe give me a second.
Okay.
Um, let me see.
Because generally, I mean, we don't see these. They go straight to the title company and we only hear if there's a problem.
Hmm.
But I want the agents to know what they are.
Yeah,
And maybe
sure.
that if you're gonna be a
Um,
great realtor, ask the title company for a copy, put it in your dot loop file so we have it.
okay,
Because it's very likely it could get termites within a year after closing, and the buyer's gonna be pissed and say that damn inspection company didn't find these termites. Well, they might not have been there.
right. Yep. No, exactly. Yep. Yeah. Give me one, just 1 second here, and I'll pull one up, and I'll see if I can figure out how to share my screen. I haven't used Zoom in a while. We've been using Teams, so
Okay.
I'm
Well,
not. I
on the
might. It
bottom
might
of
take
your
me.
screen, there'll be a green highlight that says share screen. You're already a co-host, so all you have to do is hit share screen and choose which screen.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. Give me
Nancy
one.
said, my mom's in South Tampa, lived in the same home for over 50 years. She had termites 3 times. And the
Oh
last,
yeah.
before I sold it, she had 5 huge oaks. We tented it before we sold it. Does
Yep.
tenting solve subterranean and drywood termites?
It does not. Fumigation or tinting is for drywood termites.
Okay.
That's why it's so important to identify the type of termite it is for the client. Because if we tell them that it's subterranean termites and it's drywood termites, then they'll do a subterranean termite treatment, which is where you poison the soil. That won't affect the drywood termites. And conversely, if you do a fumigation for subterranean termites, it'll kill what's in the house at the time, but it won't affect the ones
Yes.
that are in the ground. So they just come
Gotcha.
right back. Yeah. So you have to make sure you do the appropriate treatment. Yeah.
Is there an additive you can add to paint when you're painting a wood house to help protect against wood destroying organisms?
No, there's no paint that will protect against any kind of termite or any WDO for that matter.
John said, typically have the WDO report sent to the buyer and myself, as I need to forward it onto the insurance company once it's clean. And this is especially important for VA loans because they
Mhm.
want.
Yeah, we always it's included with our other inspections, home inspection, 4-point wind met. We always send it to you guys as well as the client. So yeah,
So
so
they wouldn't tent our house. Well, there are 2 types of termites. So if they wouldn't tent it, you probably had subterranean termites,
it's
which is
possible.
poisoning the soil.
Yeah. So
Tenting
well, I have
is
that.
fast. It's amazing. I've seen, they got some big houses in my neighborhood and they just tented one about a month ago. I mean, I
Mhm.
saw them roll the tent out in the morning. I came back from the office and that damn house is tented in a day. They don't
Yeah,
mess.
it's crazy, man. They're those guys are really good at what they do.
Do you
That's
guys
why
do
I
that?
don't.
Or do you refer us to a fumigation company?
I'm sorry.
Do you guys do the tenting or do you refer us to a fumigation company?
No, we don't do any treatments.
Okay.
We are licensed to do treatments. We are technically a pest control company as well as a home inspection company, just because of the way the state of Florida requires the licensing. But we just choose not to do any treatments at this time. We've kind of discussed maybe getting into that at some point in the
Well, the
future. But
accusation is you find termites, so you get the job to tend them. So it's just
well, and that's actually what we
why we don't.
feel is an advantage to letting us do the inspection.
Right.
Because since we don't do any treatments, we have no skin in the game.
Mhm.
We don't care if we find them or not. Well, I mean, you know what I mean.
You're not going to benefit
We do
from
care. Yeah, it doesn't benefit us to find
make a living
termites because
from
we're
it.
not
Right.
going to be able to sell you a treatment. You call Truly Nolan or Terminex or somebody like that. They're not leaving that house until they find something so they can sell you a treatment. That's just that's the way they do business.
Right.
So anyway, I have that report ready here for you if you'd like.
Good. Share screen.
Yeah, let me see.
Bright green button in the center of the black bar at the bottom.
Yep.
Then it's going to ask you to pick which screen to share. It's usually
Okay.
screen.
All right. Can you guys see that?
Sure.
All right. Yep. It's wood destroying organisms inspection report.
No, understand this is
Um,
not you didn't make this form up, right?
that is correct. This is actually distributed by the state of Florida. All WDO inspection reports have to be done on this file or on this form, excuse me, unless it is a VA loan. Sometimes those lenders require it's a national form. It's a National Pest Management Association or NPMA 33. I think I can probably count on one hand the times I've had to use that form since I've been at FBI Group. So occasionally they'll ask for it. Typically, this is sufficient even for VA. But yes, all pest control companies have to use this particular form for their report. They can't just use something that they drew up on their computer.
Mhm.
So you've just got, your Wilton Simpson is the commissioner of the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. That's who regulates the pest control business in Florida. As you can see there at the top, just some general information there as we go. We've got, our company information. That's all pretty standard. This is what I'm going to be doing today. I apologize. It's got some, personal information on there, but you guys just disregard that, please. I didn't have a blank one. So here's the most important paragraph. It speaks to what we were just talking about earlier. About inspection findings, consumers should read this carefully. This report, and it's in big, bold capital letters. This report is made on the basis of what is visible and readily accessible at the time of this inspection, and does not constitute a guarantee of the absence of WDOs or damage unless it's otherwise stated in this report, in which it is not. So again, we do the very, very best we can. But at some point that, it's just like you said, it's possible that things could happen, later on down the line.
We do the best we
Um,
can, and we screw up sometimes too.
Correct. Yeah. So things just happen. And it just kind of goes into some definition of what a WDO is. It's not a structural damage report. And this is in there because typically WDO inspectors are not home inspectors. So it says further investigation by qualified experts of the building trade should be made. That's kind of a moot point because we are, as home inspectors, experts in the building trade. So we can comment on the structural soundness in the home inspection report, not on the WDO report. They have to be separate because of the different licensing, sorry, and different departments that regulate, DBPR regulates home inspectors, Department of Agriculture, regulates
Pest control companies.
pest control. So we have to be very careful on what we say and how we say it on either report.
Is there something
Um,
WDI report?
it's the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Some people call it WDI, which is actually incorrect, but yeah, that's just some people say that. So, any visible evidence, any evidence such as wings, frass, exit holes, any damage caused that we noted on these blanks here.
So you're hoping
Um,
you see a no. If that scroll back up, if you would.
yep,
If it says visible signs of WDO, no, that's a good termite inspection for you.
correct. Yeah, that means we didn't find any evidence or any damage or any live.
Right.
And there's
Now you might find evidence, and we do find evidence of dead termites, right?
correct.
But that's not a
Right.
cause for concern. That just means somebody didn't clean up.
Right. So what we usually tell the clients, look, we found some evidence that there
Were termites?
were termites here at some point. It's possible they could still be here, or they could have done a treatment and they're not here anymore. We do look for evidence of past treatments. That's actually another section that we note. So say we find, a bunch of frass, a bunch of drywood termite damage, even some dead swarmers, but it was tinted, a week ago. Yeah, this is all probably old damage or evidence that was here before they did the fumigation. If we don't find any evidence of treatment, then we say, well, there's possibility that they could still be here. It, wouldn't be a bad idea to follow up with a, licensed pest control contractor, just as we would recommend a licensed HVAC contractor or roofing contractor in the home inspection if we, found some deficiencies in those areas. So, yeah, so live, we cannot say that we saw live termites unless we actually physically see a live WDO, whether it be termite, wood decaying fungi, or the wood boring beetles. We can, like I said, we can do that house that's got frass everywhere, wings everywhere, dead swarmers everywhere. There's no signs of any treatment anywhere. I'm 99.9% sure this house has termites. But if we don't actually see a live termite, we cannot put that there's live termites.
Don't they have to put a sticker under the kitchen sink or something if they do?
Correct. If any inspection or treatment is done by law, you're supposed to post a notice, whether that be on the electric panel, water heater, underneath the kitchen sink cabinet, in the attic, wherever, just somewhere where it's accessible, that somebody can see that you were there. And then, so that's why we've gotten complaints in the past that we put evidence and damage that we found, but we didn't check live. People automatically assume that that means there's no live termites. That's not what that means. That means that we just didn't see any live termites at the time of inspection.
It could be underground and they could be inside walls.
Correct. Yeah. So they call us, ranting and raving. You said there were no live termites because you didn't check, B1. Well, Ms. Jones, I'm sorry. That's not exactly what that means. Unfortunately, I'm sorry that this happened, but that just meant that, we just didn't see any live at the time, so it can be a little sticky at times, but, we try to put verbiage on there as best we can to explain, what we do and what we don't do and what's covered and what's not. So it's it's been pretty good, but as you know, in your business, things going to come up occasionally.
Mhm.
Just the next section is any obstructions or inaccessible areas. The attic, the crawl space, if there's one there, the exterior, interior, any evidence of previous treatment observed. That's why I'll say if it was, we'd check yes and put, treatment notice located on an electric panel indicated of fumigation for drywood termites in 2023, something of that nature. Patch drill holes around the exterior foundation indicate a previous treatment for subterranean termites, so
Talk
just
about
something to,
we didn't do that. We talk about tenting for drywood. So treatment for subterranean, they actually do. They drill through the block under the
correct.
slab and they
Yep.
inject. Is it
Correct.
liquid poison?
Pardon?
Is it liquid poison?
Most of them are, yeah. There's several different treatment methods. There's the liquid poison that you can put around the foundation. Some of them use the baiting system. It's those little, plastic discs that you see in the yard, about every 10 feet apart. That's a baiting system. There's a solution that you can spray on the wood that will kill the termites if they try to eat it. That's typically done at pre-construction. You can do it at post-construction, but it's very difficult because you have to drill holes in the drywall and get it back in there. So typically they don't do that. Unless it's just like one spot treatment. They just think that they only have termites in this one little spot. So they'll do a spot treatment that way.
I just remember when I was selling, it was you could walk around the perimeter of the house, you see these holes every 3 feet. That's because they drilled holes in the slab and they treated termites. So that was a dead giveaway.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. And we'll get asked the question, if we don't find a treatment notice, all we see is like the drill holes. They'll ask us, well, when do you think it was done? And I have no idea. There's nowhere, it could have been done last week or 10 years ago. Well, do you think they did it because they had termites or did, I don't know that either. It could have been remedial or it could have been preventive. I don't know. All I know is that there was a treatment done at some point in the past, and that's about the best I can do.
So like the dumb question, I know the answer is going to be it depends, but how long should a treatment last?
It depends on what type of treatment. Fumigation will kill anything that's in the structure at the time of treatment. But it is a true gas. So as soon as that tent is taken off, there is no protection. So theoretically, the termites could come back like the next day.
That's why most termite fumigators you want to get a warranty from.
Correct. Yeah, and most of them won't go past 5 years. And the reason for that is it takes about 7 years, give or take, for a drywood termite colony to build up enough numbers to show some evidence, whether that be a swarm or damage or whatever that may be. So typically, if you see another swarm after a fumigation has been done fairly recently, say a year later, that means that they didn't do the treatment correctly. Because if they do, then it kills everything in the house. And then, like I said, theoretically, even if the
Time.
termites come back the next day after they take the tent off, it's going to be about 7 years, give or take, before you see another, swarm or any kind of evidence for that.
Gotcha.
Um, Subtreatments are a little differently. They do bond to the soil for the liquid. So those typically last about 5 years or so. We used to do a booster treatment around the 5 to 7 year mark, just to kind of refresh it. The baits can last theoretically forever, as long as those, little bait stations are in good, shape. Nobody runs over them with a lawnmower or something, or pulls them out of the ground. You can keep servicing those for as long as you want. The wood treatment that they spray on the wood most times, like I said, in pre-construction, usually lasts about 10 years, give or take, because it's a little bit more, protected from the elements being on the inside. Um, but again, as we said, earlier, nothing lasts forever. Termite treatments, pressure treating, cedar, all that's going to wear out eventually. So unfortunately in Florida, that's one of the, um, one of the prices we pay for 70 degrees in January is, we're going to have to deal with termites.
There's also
Um,
in structure treatments where
what kind
you
of treatments? I'm sorry.
in structure they put pipes in the walls, lines in the walls, and they have a port
Well,
on the outside of the house.
that's actually a misconception. Those are not for termites.
Oh, really?
Those are actually, yeah, for just general household pest control for
Okay.
roaches, ants, spiders, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I get that question asked a lot actually, but that's ironically, that company that invented that system is the company that I sold my business to.
Okay.
Home Team Pest Defense. So, but yeah, they hook up a CO2 pressurized um like a
Cartridge.
cartridges, yeah, with a mixed with a very, very fine particled product that goes and dispenses through those perforated tubes. And it's just to keep, general household pests from making, colonies inside, your wall voids and getting a, bad infestation. But yes, that's not for termite control.
Okay.
Yeah, at all. So so just notice of inspection, where'd we put the notice of inspection? Any additional comments that we may put on there? This is places where we could put, hey, even though no um damage or evidence was found, it's not a guarantee of, we restate section 2. Sometimes we can say, stacked firewood against the foundation is a conducive condition. Even though no activity was found, it's a good idea to remove that so no problems arise in the future, that sort of thing. And then we've got our signature, the address, and then there'll be a section at the bottom where we can include photographs. So that's real helpful, for the client.
Gotcha.
Um,
So
but
home inspection combination question with WDO inspection. In the
mhm,
80s, a lot of houses had these architectural beams, wood beams. That would generally be cedar or something like that. They come down at an
mhm,
angle and be painted. I've
right.
seen that where they've got wood rot or termites, but it's not a structural component. What do you do with something like that? Does the home inspector note it that it's a bad, or does the WDO inspector say it's fungus? And is it required to be repaired, or is it just considered as cosmetic because you can take them off?
Right. Well, it all depends on, the lender. If it's a VA loan and we find any kind of WDO evidence or damage, they're going to make, somebody do something, either remove it or repair it. It depends on the severity of the damage, whether it's structural or just, surface cosmetic type damage. Um, to your point, it's not a load bearing, structural component.
Mhm.
But if it has some danger of, maybe a piece falling off, and injuring someone, then we definitely, suggest repair or replacement at that point. Um, but we try to be as, um, I wouldn't say unbiased as we can, that, hey, we found what we found, you guys do with it what you will, you
Yeah.
know?
So what we deal with is we have two contracts. We have an as-is contract and a regular contract that has repair limits. And
Mhm,
as is as is. So the
right,
buyer can inspect for termites, but the seller has no obligation to make the repair.
right,
Many times they do, but they have no obligation to do it. Under the standard contract, there's a repair limit where the seller has to pay up to the repair limit in the termite damage.
right.
So And as his contract gets termites found during the inspection period, they can walk away for any price they want. You have a
Right.
decent repair limit in the regular contract. The seller can say, "Bullshit, you're staying in, dude. I'll make the repairs, and you're staying in contract." So that's why I
Right.
personally like the regular contract over the as is, because buyers do
Mhm.
freak out at the sound of the words termite.
No, absolutely. Yep.
Mhm.
No, I get it. Especially people from out of state, they think it's just the house is gonna evaporate,
Right.
in 10
Fall
minutes.
down on itself.
Yeah.
I was going to
So,
mention also the pet peeve of mine that happens all the time. That's why I don't have any exit doors from my garage, swing doors.
mhm.
Because I always see on inspection reports, there's wood rot at the bottom of the door jamb of that. Is that a
Yep.
WDO issue, or is that just a cosmetic issue?
Well, and again, this is my answer to about every question.
It
It
depends.
depends.
There you go,
Yeah.
John.
It starts out as, water damage / wood rot. It can progress to the point where it's wood decaying fungi if nothing is, done about it. Also,
Do you note that?
yes,
Okay. On the home
well,
inspection or on the wood destroying organism inspection? Or both?
definitely on the home inspection
Okay.
and only on the WDO report if it's progressed to the point where it's wood decaying fungi. If
Okay.
it's not, then we don't.
Okay.
Um, and those can also be a conducive condition for termites. Termites like damp
Wood and wet.
wood. Yeah,
Mhm.
so that's a prime area for termites to come, and have start doing some damage on top of the water
Right.
damage. So it all kind of goes hand in hand.
And guys, that's such an easy fix. They literally come in with a 45-degree saw. They cut off the dead part. They cut a new
Yep.
piece of trim. They trip it in. They caulk it. They paint it, and it's repaired. But it's going to happen again because the
Yep.
sprinklers hit the side of the house, and they don't keep the paint up, and all that other stuff
Yep.
happens.
Yeah, it's bad design. We probably find that more often than we don't.
So let's say out of 100 termite WDO inspections you do, how many have a problem?
Um, with damage or evidence, it's probably 30%.
Wow, more than I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah, since we're doing a home inspection, as you guys know, typically people have prepared their home to sell. You know what I mean? So, well, you would hope they would. Most of the time they do. So typically, most of that type of stuff has been taken care of by the time we get there. Unless we just find stuff that they just didn't, they didn't know about. So it's not very common that we find any kind of evidence or damage. And it's probably, I'd say, less than 5% that we find any kind of live termites or wood decaying fungi. It's actually pretty uncommon to find anything like that.
Well, people are living in their homes. They'd see them before you would,
Correct.
and they'd
Yeah.
freak out.
Well, yeah, you would hope they would do something about it.
Yeah, so Vicky, yeah, that's a very simple. They can, if you can find the matching trim, it's real simple. They
Sure.
just
No.
cut it off, nail it back in, and caulk it and paint it.
Yep. Absolutely. And that's really the treatment for wood decaying fungi.
Mhm.
You can't really spray anything on it and kill it. You just have to remove the affected wood and replace it.
There you go. See, I told you you'd learn something today. Well, Shane, we
Wait,
accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. I mean, it's not a scary thing until
no.
it is, but it's something
Well,
that every buyer should do. If cash
yes.
buyers coming in, but
Yeah.
lenders require WDO inspections, period.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So if
Yep.
a lender requires it because they're lending money on it, if you got a cash buyer, you said, "Nah, I don't need that." Bullshit. What is it? $75 for an
We
add-on?
charge 150.
Okay.
We're a little bit more than some of the other pest control companies, but again, it's for the convenience. We're already there. You don't have to worry about, it's like you pay more for a 2 liter at Circle K than you do at Winn-Dixie because it's
Right.
convenient.
Right.
And another thing to keep in mind, I get this question a lot. Well, you're already doing the home inspection. If you find anything, let me know, and then we'll add the WDO. Which,
No,
I
we're not
understand.
searching for it unless we're paid for it.
Well, exactly. There's different, standards of practice on the WDO inspection than there is on the home inspection. Matter of fact, on the home inspection, we can't even say termite. We not only can't say subterranean or drywood termite, we can't say termite, period. We have to say insect damage because we're typically home inspectors are not licensed pest control inspector. So it, like I said, state of Florida is very specific in their, standards. So if we're just doing a home inspection and we come across some termite damage, click insect damage, move on. There you go. Whereas in a home or with a WDO inspection, we're actively looking for the damage. We're not only using a visual inspection, but we're tapping baseboards, we're tapping door frames, we're tapping, trusses, to see if there's any hidden damage. We're, maybe looking a little bit closer behind furniture and, things of that nature. Not that we don't anyway, but, with WDOs, we're probably looking a few different places than we might not ordinarily look. If we do find any damage, we're actually legally obligated to probe that wood to see if there's any live activity. So it's quite a bit more extensive of an inspection, and the report is very much more specific. So if we find any evidence or damage, the location and the organism that caused that evidence or damage, whether it be subterranean termites, drywood termites, wood decaying fungi, that's all listed. So it's a lot more specific. So the client has a lot more direction on how to do the treatment to remedy it.
Nice.
So again, I don't mind, you guys want to save your clients money, I get it. But it's not anywhere close to the WDO inspection if it's not included with the home inspection. Just if we happen to stumble upon some.
Do you send a different inspector out for the WDO than the home inspector?
No, sir. All of our inspectors are actually trained and licensed WDO inspectors.
Nice.
They all carry an identification card with the state of Florida. And I personally do all the training. Not that I'm the world's most renowned expert on WDO, but I've been around it my whole life. So I have, probably as much or more experience than anybody in the home inspection industry, for sure. And most even pest control businesses. I have, about 40 years of experience, in it. So
Nice.
so yeah, no, they're all trained. They can all fill out the report and send it to you. They're all licensed. So yeah, it makes it a lot easier for you and your clients.
Well, a nice plug for your company, which you guys do a great job, and
Thank you.
good information for us.
Appreciate it.
You guys can all consider yourself on your way to becoming a great realtor as you learn all the aspects of a real estate transaction.
Yeah.
And it's not, and you are in Florida, and a lot of you are not from Florida, but you're here now.
Right.
And you've learned something, because Florida is just known for termites. I got a concrete block house with concrete floors and everything. I could still have termites. They can go through my vents. I was gonna ask you one question though. What's the stuff they now spray foam the attics and they close off the soffits? What's that called?
Isonine.
Isonine.
Yep.
I assume an isonine house would be more insulated, or at least drywood termites. They can still have subterranean. And I think it's also important to know that before the visqueen goes down, they pour the slab. They also do subterranean termite. Most builders do subterranean. I think they're required to do subterranean termite treatment before they pour the slab.
Correct. It's required in the state of Florida by law that they do some sort of treatment. It can be a liquid soil treatment. It could be the baiting system, or it could be the solution that they spray on the wood before the drywall goes up. But you're correct. Some type of treatment has to be done before they can proceed with their construction.
So now I got another question to ask a new home contractor. How do you treat for termites before the slab is poured? Because if they do it on the dirt, like here, we've got a lot of this construction I do, it's stem wall construction filled with dirt, compacted. We put all the plumbing in there, and then we lay wire mesh, and then we're visqueen, and then wire mesh, and then we pour the slab. So if you put the poison under the wire mesh for the visqueen, hate that word, visqueen.
I know.
Then it's going to treat the house better, because the termites won't come through the poison through the plastic to get to the cracks in the concrete. So there are ways things can be done, and I guess you could probably ask a contractor to add that too if they didn't include it in there.
Yes. Unfortunately, most contractors don't do that type of treatment anymore. I think all the concrete guys maybe lobbied or something, that they were scared of the solution. So the majority of the pre-construction treatments now are either the baiting system or the solution that they spray on the wood, which is a borate. It's kind of a combination of salt and boric acid, and it absorbs into the wood and helps protect it. You can still, you can request, the liquid treatment for sure. They generally don't do it, unless it is requested. So I personally think that's the best, treatment method, but I don't make the rules, unfortunately.
Well, remember, guys, there's two types of houses in Florida: those that have termites and those that will have termites. And
Yep.
they're really an easy fix. This is a sample, like a standard 2,500 square foot house to be tented. Do you have any idea?
Um,
$1,000?
it depends on if it's single story or two story, if it's crawl space or slab. If it's single story slab, 2,500 square feet, it's probably 1,500 to 2,000, somewhere around there, give or take.
So it's
I
sizable.
haven't really kept up on the treatment costs, honestly, since I've been out of the industry, but that's probably pretty close.
And subterranean treatments.
Probably about the same.
So you're
Yeah,
a
that's
couple
a little more
$1,000.
labor. Yeah, that's actually a little more labor intensive, because you have to drill all those holes and then repatch them. And anywhere there's dirt up against the foundation, you have to dig a trench, and then treat the trench, put it, put the dirt back. So um, it's, yeah, it's probably about the same, for both. And I wasn't monitoring the chat, but I noticed there were several, was there any more questions that
I
anybody
covered
else
all the
had that?
chats. No,
Yeah.
I was watching the whole time.
Okay.
Who would you, I mean, you probably are not allowed to make referrals. Who would you recommend for tenting or for subterranean? I mean,
There's a
there's,
couple, pretty good companies in the Tampa Bay area. I'm not really familiar with, Pinellas or, like down Venice, those areas, but
but the big,
I know in
big
this,
name companies, the Orkins, the Truly Nolans, those are
I
expensive.
typically steer people away from those if unless they just absolutely have to, just because they're sales machines. And your, $1,500 fumigation is going to end up being $4,500 everything else. Which, that's what you want, that's fine. But, guaranteed they're going to try to upsell you. Some of the more medium-sized companies are usually a safer bet. Um, they're not going to try to upsell you as much as the bigger companies, but they're not like a one man mom and pop type people
Right.
that might not be there in a year
Well,
to
down
honor
here,
their
we got
warranty.
Golden Rule Pest Control. We got Haskins,
Haskell, actually.
Haskell.
Yeah. Yeah, they're good. Yeah, they're fine. Magnum is a good one. Best Termite and Pest Control is a good one. Florida Pest Control is good. That's actually the company I worked for before I came and work for Tom. Um, like I said, they're not huge global, machines, but they're big enough to handle anything you need.
And they'll be
Um,
around for 5 years until the warranty goes up.
Correct. Yeah. So that's the biggest key in termite protection is your warranty and guarantee.
Gotcha.
Yeah. A lot of
Okay.
companies will even, not only they'll give you a retreatment guarantee, but they'll also cover, they'll give you a damage repair warranty. So if any damage is done while under warranty, they'll not only retreat, but they'll also pay to fix any damages that may incur.
Ooh, good point.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I was expecting this to be a 30-minute meeting. We went on for 53 minutes. So
Okay.
a boring topic it was not. So thank you very much. And I think we learned a lot from you today.
Well, you're very welcome. I appreciate you having me on, Craig.
Okay.
And you guys have my contact information. Hopefully, if you guys ever have any questions or anything, please feel free to reach out. If I can answer my phone or a text right away, I will. If I'm in an inspection or something, I can't, but I'll get right back to you. I'd love to help any of you guys out if you ever have any needs or questions.
Perfect. Thank you much. All right,
You're
everybody.
welcome.
Tune in for Match of the Contract Friday tomorrow. I have lots of topics for you and we'll learn some more.
All right.
Happy Thursday. Thanks,
See you,
Shane.
Craig.